The one thing that I also admire a lot about you is your ability to explain connection. And I think that for anybody that's deciding to do a career change or start a business or go into dancing or whatever the case may be, I think establishing connection and being able to communicate effectively is probably the most important thing that you have to do.
Of
Uh,
course.
what would be the number one advice? Because for me, it was more about learning about myself than anything else. But maybe that to me was a really long journey to get to learn
Hmm.
about myself, and it's still a process. But what would you suggest to someone who's just starting out that way, who's wants to learn how to make connections, meaningful connections, and then use that to propel their passions or business or whatever they're trying to do in life?
Um, the best advice I could give, and it's one that I use constantly, is be curious. Curiosity will improve almost everything. It might hurt you too, but curiosity kills the cat. Yep. But as long as you're not dead, curiosity can really improve everything. When I am dancing, for example, I'm curious about my partner. I'm curious about what they feel like. I'm curious if there's a tremor or if they've got sweaty palms, to understand what they might be thinking or feeling in that moment. I'm curious what they're about to do. And then based on what they do, I will be able to react to it versus just standing there and um, passively accepting whatever's coming my way. I'm trying to ask questions of what could be coming my way. How is it being delivered? Is this the same as the last time it was delivered? Probably not. What are all the other things that are happening around me? Who's walking? Are they walking into this dance right now? Are they going to be walking parallel to it? Is the thing that my partner is about to do going to send me into that person? What about the other couple next to me? And just asking questions and being curious about how things are operating around you helps you increase your awareness of yourself, whoever's around you, and your environment. But it also helps increase your ability to react quickly to stimuli. And,
That's interesting.
and that develops your ability to respond to things as well. And so in communication, for example, if you're just having a conversation with someone, it's good to ask questions. Just keep on asking questions, because you also it's not just that you get information about that person, but you start to understand how they communicate. And in that way that you keep hearing the way they communicate, it starts to permeate through your own mind and through your mouth, and then you can start to communicate with them in the same way. For
Mm.
example, depending on who I'm speaking to, I might be speaking very properly, or I might be like, yo, 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 you know.
Yeah.
But that comes out of asking some questions and listening and paying attention and being curious about somebody else. Same thing with a job. You get a job, and maybe it's something as simple as I don't know, just being a cashier, at a grocery store or something. But seeing like how they organize the money, or how they line things up in the grocery store. Why do they stock things a certain way? Is there a process for all of that stuff? You start finding things out. And then when someone wants to ask you a question, instead of being like, I don't know, ask the manager, you actually have an answer. And in that moment, you have developed some very small, short relationship with that person that's asking you, because you're helpful. And now you can feel better about your day because you actually helped somebody. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you feel that curiosity actually puts you in the present now? So like a
Yes.
lot, yeah, because I
I
feel like dancing does that for most people. Like that's why it's so addictive. It gets you in that now very easily.
Right.
Maybe being curious about other aspects of your life can do the same thing for you.
Yeah, I would say curiosity is twofold. Like there's an element of it that keeps you present for sure, because you're taking in all of the information around you. But then there's also an element of it that's futuristic and past, because part of the processing of information that you have in front of you at the moment requires us to just kind of compare it to whatever we know. So that's going back into the past. And then if we are creative, then we're always wondering what could happen with this information. So then we're back, then we're jumping to the future. So I don't think that curiosity is just all about being present in the moment. I actually think it has threads that go into our past and into our future as well.
So then what's the number one element do you think that allows you to be so creative on the dance floor, that allows you to see so many solutions while while so many things are happening at the same time? because I feel like being in the present now and being in a state of flow is like, you can feel this connection, you feel this movement, and then this comes out. And it's not necessarily one move.
Right. It's training, right? I would not say that when I started dancing 20 years ago that I had any of these abilities that I do today. It was a constant curiosity and constantly asking questions and constantly wondering why, when this person leads me through a crossbody lead, I'm able to follow effortlessly, and then this person leads me through it and I can't follow it. What are the differences? What's the change? You know, so again, going past, comparing it to something that I experienced before, why is it not working now? What if I change something? Will this work? Futuristic, right? And constantly just bouncing all of that. And I feel like it's training, right? It's a muscle, the mind. So if you want to get better at that ability to be in the moment and just flow with everything, you have to know yourself. You got to know how your body moves. You got to know how to create power, how to create resistance, how to create the proper resistance, how to adapt to somebody else's resistance. That's just in your hands. That's one hand. You got to know how to do that with both hands. You got to know how to do that with your arms, your whole body, how you step into the floor. And then make sure that you are mindful of the people around you. Like, there's so many things, but if you're paying attention to them, you know, like that's really where you're going to get that flow, is getting comfortable being curious about everything to the point where you're a sponge for information. You know, I think people lack curiosity, to be honest. I feel like people get comfortable when they learn enough to make them look good. You know, so they learn a certain set of moves and that's it. They get on the dance floor, for example, and that's what they're going to do. And they're no longer curious about being better or having a better connection. They plateau. And I think that happens a lot, even in people with jobs for many years in one industry or one particular job will plateau. They're like, oh, you know, I want to do something else. I don't want this job anymore. But have you stopped to think about the other aspects of the job? Everything's changing. Like, that's another thing too, when I talk about dance and when I talk about these moments of connection that we have with other people, is there's no second in our life that will ever repeat itself. None. You know, something has always changed. Like, you and I could be here again on the next Wednesday at the same time, and it won't be the same because something has changed. You know, my hair is growing out. Maybe I have another gray hair, but something has changed. And people don't pay attention to the change. They start to just pay attention to the things that keep on repeating themselves and revealing themselves. And they say, well, this is all the same. And it's never the same. It's up to us to be curious enough to find the differences. You know, and then all of a sudden we have a renewed passion for the same thing, right? Because again, going back to like dance, right? We get into dance because we love the dance. We get addicted to it. But then we start to feel like, it's the same old, until you realize it's not. And then you get addicted to it again. Same thing with a job, right? Yeah. Like you would have the same issue with a job. Like, you start getting bored in it. But then if you start to look at different aspects of it, you're like, actually, no, holy shit, I didn't even pay attention to this. Same thing with relationships. You end up in relationships and you're like, oh, this is the same old. But maybe there's something different about your partner, you know, where you can, again, fall in love with that person again, you know?
It's the nuances of everything that you're doing, is looking at that. And I think you mentioned something pretty interesting when you talked about curiosity, is that you compare to the past, but you don't necessarily stick yourself to it.
Right.
Like, and you're not necessarily sticking yourself to the future. Like, you're using them as sources of information to kind of learn about the person or the situation, but it seems like you're not using them as like the foundation of whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. It's more so like, I'm going to use the information to find out what else I can make out of this.
Right.
It's
in the present
like
moment.
Being in the present moment. It's kind of like your cooking style.
Yes,
like, what can I put in here? Right.
That's what everyone's always like, wait, what did you just post on Instagram? What combination?
Exactly. I see some of your posts and I'm like, what concoction is this?